the reality is that heavy metals are naturally occurring in the Earth's crust. So think back in middle school on that whole periodic table of elements that also has things like oxygen and hydrogen, gold, everything like that. It also has lead, arsenic, cadmium, mercury. These things are also naturally occurring in the Earth's crust. However, with a very important however, because of things like human causes like mining, fracking, industrial agriculture, the use of wastewater for irrigation, not to mention given the globalization of the food supply, even if we set the most progressive environmental policy here domestically, given that all countries worldwide don't have those same policies, these types of contaminants can end up in the finished product. So in the absence, like I mentioned before, in the absence of these types of things being in actual part of federal regulation, the onus is on brands like Else to voluntarily think about food safety differently in the interest of like, yeah, I get it that it's not, we don't have to pay attention to this from a federal perspective, but from a consumer perspective and a parent perspective, we're going to. So that's what we look to do with Clean Label at Clean Label Project, is having these certification programs paying attention to contaminants above and beyond minimum requirements in federal law. So we talked about how heavy metals get into finished products, pesticides. Obviously, pesticides. I mean, it's right there in the name. And what it's looking to do is kill pests, and those can be things from both insects as well as different types of mold, mildew, fungus, those types of things. And depending on when a pesticide is used during that agricultural process, some of those remnants can still be in that finished product when they end up being sold to consumers. So for us, that's why we test for, I think it's over 350 different industrial environmental contaminants and toxins. And for pesticides, it includes things like glyphosate, which is that active ingredient in Roundup that so many people have heard about, that, there was a huge lawsuit related to glyphosate Roundup, which potential links to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. You have the whole breakdown component of glyphosate that's called AMPA. And so it's one where it's one thing that you've got the glyphosate, but then when it starts to break down and degrade, turns into AMPA. These are all things that potentially could also be found in food and consumer products. Packaging, we talked about plastics. How plastics can end up in finished products? So the thing is, when it comes to plastics, it's convenient, non-breakable, but the thing is, when it comes to some plastic, they use different types of almost like these liners that can have a potential to leach into finished product packaging, or I'm sorry, into finished product, especially if that product is warm when it's put inside the packaging. So that's the way BPA works. BPA, BPS, they have known links to endocrine disruption and infertility, also things like phthalates. These are all found in product packaging, but what happens is if that product is loaded warm, you have these packaging migration issues, that the actual package goes and starts to infiltrate the actual product that's inside. So we also test for those types of things. So again, these are things that largely are outside of that scope of federal regulation, but nevertheless are really important to consumers and especially parents.
Yeah, you're taking me back to my NICU days with the plastic bottles. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's awful. So tell me a little bit more. How does the Clean Label certification work then?
So in terms of Clean Label Project, so especially for you guys, if we've got anyone that's on a call that you are